At my father's funeral, I learned the truth that destroyed everything. He had a mistress and a secret child who was about to take everything from us. My father's coffin lay at the front, draped in white, surrounded by candles that flickered as if they too mourned his passing. I stood by my mother, clutching her trembling hand. My brother sat stiffly beside us, jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the floor. We were broken but united, or so I thought. The priest spoke words of comfort, but they floated past me like meaningless echoes. My father wasn't perfect, but he was ours. He was the man who had built everything we knew, the man who had taught me strength. Without him, the world felt hollow. Then the doors creaked open. Every head turned. A woman stepped inside, dressed in black. Her veil hid most of her face, but I could see her sharp features, the tilt of her chin. She wasn't grieving. She was purposeful. Beside her, a boy no older than 7 clutched her hand. He wore a tiny suit, his hair neatly combed, though his wide eyes darted around nervously. Whispers rippled through the room. Who is she? Why bring a child here? I felt my chest tighten. Something about the way she walked, straight toward the front, unflinching, told me she wasn't just another mourner. She stopped at the coffin. For a moment, she bowed her head, pressing her hand gently on the wood. Then she turned. Her voice rang out clear and steady, slicing through the silence. I am Mira, she said. And this, she placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. This is Arjun, the son of Raghav Malhotra, the rightful heir to his legacy. The room exploded. Gasps, mutters, disbelief. My mother's hand slipped from mine. My brother surged to his feet. How dare you, he shouted. My father had no child but us. But the woman didn't flinch. Her eyes met his, calm but unyielding. You may not have known him as fully as you think. Your father loved my son, and now that he is gone, Arjun deserves his place. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. My mind screamed liar, but the boy's face, there was something in his eyes, a familiarity I couldn't shake. My mother's lips parted in silent horror, her skin pale as marble. She looked at me as if to ask whether this nightmare was real. I wanted to comfort her, to say it was a cruel trick. But deep inside, a sliver of doubt wormed its way in. What if she was telling the truth? The funeral turned into chaos around me, but I stood frozen, staring at the boy who might be my father's secret. My father's shame, my father's heir. And in that instant, I knew nothing in my family would ever be the same again. Imagine being at your father's funeral and a woman arrives claiming her child is your father's true heir. What would your first reaction be? Anger, disbelief, or doubt? The funeral ended in whispers, not prayers. Instead of mourning, people left with gossip burning on their tongues, their eyes darting between us and the woman who had shattered our peace. At home, the storm raged louder. My brother slammed his fists on the dining table, rattling the silver trays. She humiliated us in front of everyone, he barked. How could she dare? My mother sat silent, her face pale, her tea untouched. I had never seen her look so fragile. She wasn't just grieving my father anymore. She was grieving her marriage, her dignity. I sat beside her, my hands clenched. She's lying, I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. She has to be. But then the doorbell rang. Our housekeeper rushed in, wringing her hands. Madam, she's here. I froze. Before we could react, the woman walked in, dressed this time in a crisp black sari, her son holding her hand. She didn't wait for permission. She stepped into our living room as if she belonged there. You've said enough, my brother snapped, storming toward her. Leave before I have you dragged out. But she lifted her chin, unafraid. I won't leave. Not until I secure my son's place. Her words hung heavy in the air. My mother finally spoke, her voice sharp though faint. You dare bring this into my home? My husband was a good man. He would never betray you. The woman's eyes narrowed. Then tell me, why do you think he built this house in the city, far from you all those years ago? Why do you think he kept his business trip so long? My mother flinched as though struck. The boy, Arjun, clung to her sari, looking lost. He wasn't arrogant. He wasn't cruel. He was just a child. And somehow that made it worse. I found my voice at last. If you're telling the truth, I said slowly, then prove it. Don't expect us to believe you because you walked in here with a story. Her lips curled faintly. The proof will come. But for now, hear this. I am not here for charity. My son is Raghav Malhotra's blood. And by right, he is the heir to everything your father left behind. The air drained from my lungs. The will, the inheritance, the life we thought was ours alone, she was claiming it for her son. My brother lunged forward, but I grabbed his arm. My mind whirled, torn between fury and fear. Was she a liar, a fraud, or the keeper of the truth my father had hidden from us all? Either way, I knew this was only the beginning. If someone claimed to be your father's secret heir, would you demand proof, ignore them, or fight them immediately? 3 days after the funeral, we gathered in my father's study. The lawyer, Mr. Kapoor, sat stiffly behind the mahogany desk, papers stacked neatly before him. His glasses slid down his nose as he glanced nervously between us, and the unwelcome guests seated across the room. The mistress, Mira, sat tall, her black sari draped elegantly, her eyes sharp and steady. Beside her, little Arjun swung his legs, clutching a small toy car. He seemed blissfully unaware of the storm swirling around him. My mother sat rigid, her knuckles white as she gripped her chair. My brother muttered curses under his breath, his anger barely contained. I sat between them, my heart pounding so loudly I could hardly hear myself think. Mr. Kapoor cleared his throat. Your father left behind a will. In it, he outlined his wishes for the distribution of his estate. Get on with it, my brother snapped. The lawyer hesitated, then began. As expected, the primary shares of Mr. Malhotra's business empire are to be divided between his wife, his son, and his daughter. Relief flickered briefly across my mother's face, but it didn't last. However, Mr. Kapoor continued, his voice tightening, there is an addendum, a sealed letter written by your father 5 years ago, instructing that a portion of his assets be held in trust for one Arjun Malhotra. The room erupted. My brother shot to his feet. This is outrageous! That woman forged it. My mother gasped, clutching her chest as if the words had stolen the air from her lungs. No, it can't be. But Mr. Kapoor shook his head firmly. The letter is authentic. It bears your father's signature, verified against previous documents. And I must tell you, it also names Arjun as his son. The word shattered something inside me. My father, the man I had idolized, had carried a secret so heavy, so devastating, and yet he had chosen silence. Mira didn't gloat. She didn't need to. She simply placed her hand on Arjun's shoulder and whispered, "See? I told you." The boy looked up at her with innocent trust, then back at us, his supposed siblings, with wide, uncertain eyes. I felt sick, betrayed. But beneath the fury, one question burned hotter than the rest. Why? Why would my father do this? Why hide a child for so many years? And why reveal it only after his death when the truth could no longer be confronted? As the lawyer folded the papers and announced the will would take effect within weeks, I realized something chilling. This wasn't just about inheritance. It was about identity, legacy, blood, and whether I liked it or not. That boy was now part of my family's story. If you discovered your father's will named a secret child as his heir, would you fight it in court or accept the truth? The days after the will reading felt like living inside a nightmare. Every corner of the house carried whispers, servants muttering, relatives calling, neighbors speculating. Our grief was no longer private. It was gossip. My mother locked herself in her room, refusing to eat, refusing to speak. My brother stormed around the house like a caged lion, vowing revenge. And me? I was caught between anger, confusion, and a gnawing need for answers. That's why, when Mira requested to meet me alone, I agreed, against my better judgment. We met at a quiet cafe in the city. She arrived in a simple cotton sari this time. No theatrics, no veils. Only tired eyes and the weight of a story she seemed desperate to tell. "You must hate me," she said as we sat down. I folded my arms. Hate isn't strong enough. But I want to know why. Why my father? Why now? She exhaled slowly, staring into her cup of tea. "I never meant to ruin your family. Years ago when I met Raghav, I didn't even know he was married. He was kind, generous, lonely. He told me his business consumed him, that his home life was cold." I flinched. Cold? My mother had devoted her life to him. How dare she? But Mira continued, her voice soft but steady. "When I found out the truth, I wanted to walk away. But by then, Arjun was already growing inside me. And Raghav, he begged me not to. He said he would provide for us even if he couldn't be there openly." Her eyes glistened as she looked at me. I never wanted to steal his legacy. I only wanted my son to know his father loved him, to not grow up thinking he was a mistake. I wanted to call her a liar, to tell her she was twisting everything. But then I remembered the letter in the will, my father's handwriting, his choice to acknowledge Arjun in death, if not in life. My chest tightened. Could it be true? Had my father loved this woman, this child? "And now," I asked bitterly, "now you walk into our lives and demand everything he built with us?" Her expression hardened. "I demand nothing for myself, only for my son. He deserves what is rightfully his. I will fight for him if I must." Her words were calm, but they cut deep. This wasn't about her anymore. It was about Arjun, a boy who had no say in the secrets of adults. Still, rage boiled inside me. My father had betrayed us, and this woman, whether victim or villain, was here to remind me every single day. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor. "You've told your story. But know this, whether you're lying or telling the truth, I won't let you destroy my family." Her eyes didn't waver. "I don't want to destroy it. I only want to be acknowledged." For the first time, I saw the weariness in her face. She wasn't a monster. She was a woman who had lived in shadows, but that didn't make her any less dangerous. If you were in Naina's place, would you believe the mistress's story or see it only as manipulation? Home no longer felt like home. It felt like a battlefield. My mother had stopped leaving her room. Her once strong voice now came out in whispers, brittle and weak. She refused to eat at the table, refused to see Mira or even hear her name. At night, I could hear her muffled sobs through the walls, and they cut me deeper than any words could. My brother, on the other hand, grew louder by the day. Anger became his armor. He slammed doors, barked at servants, and spent hours on the phone plotting with lawyers. "We'll crush her in court," he declared. "That child will never take what belongs to us." But even as he roared, I saw the cracks in him too. The restless pacing, the empty bottles in his room, the way his hands shook when he thought no one was looking. He was unraveling, and he didn't even see it. And me? I was stuck in between, torn apart by grief, betrayal, and questions I couldn't silence. I wanted to hate Mira completely, to see her as a liar and nothing more. But Arjun, every time I saw his face, those wide, innocent eyes, I felt my anger falter. It wasn't his fault. He didn't choose this. That thought only made me angrier. Angrier at my father. Angrier at the secrets that had been buried with him. The breaking point came one evening at dinner. My mother had forced herself to join us, though she barely touched her food. My brother ranted about contesting the will, about exposing Mira in court, about shaming her publicly. "She'll regret ever stepping foot in this house," he growled. "That's enough," my mother whispered. He froze, glaring at her. "Enough? She's trying to steal everything." My mother lifted her head slowly, her eyes hollow but fierce. "Your father acknowledged him in his will. That means something. Maybe it means we can't fight it." The silence that followed was deafening. I stared at her in shock. My brother's chair scraped violently against the floor as he stood. "So now you're taking their side?" Tears filled her eyes. "I'm not taking anyone's side. I'm tired. I just want peace." His voice cracked as he shouted, "Peace? After she humiliated us? After he betrayed you? You'd let that woman and her brat live off what should be ours?" He stormed out, the door slamming like thunder. My mother crumbled into quiet sobs, and I sat there, frozen, realizing the truth. Mira hadn't just torn our family's legacy apart. She had torn us apart. We were no longer united. We were fractured, each of us drowning in our own pain. And deep down, I feared there was no coming back. If your family was breaking apart over a secret heir, would you fight harder to keep them united, or choose your own side in the battle? I didn't expect to see him again so soon, but fate has a cruel way of forcing us to face what we'd rather avoid. One afternoon, I returned from errands to find little Arjun sitting in our garden. He was crouched near the fountain, his tiny hands dipping into the water as he made his toy car swim. Mira sat on the bench nearby, watching him like a hawk, but when she saw me approach, she stood politely. I told him not to wander, she said quickly, almost apologetic. He wanted to see the flowers. I should have walked away. I should have turned my back, but something about that boy's curious eyes pinned me in place. He looked up at me, innocent and unafraid, and asked, "Are you my sister?" The question struck me like lightning. My breath caught in my throat. Sister? The word felt foreign, wrong, and yet something inside me trembled. My voice faltered. I don't know. He tilted his head. Mama says my papa loved me. Do you think he did? The air grew heavier. I wanted to scream. No, he betrayed us all. But when I looked into Arjun's face, I saw none of the lies, none of the schemes. Only a child searching for answers. He left me this, Arjun continued, digging into his small backpack. He pulled out a worn leather diary, its corners frayed. Mama said Papa gave it to her to keep safe. He said one day, I'd understand. I froze. A diary? Mira stepped forward, clearly uneasy. Arjun. But he pushed it into my hands. You can read it if you want. Maybe it will make you smile again. You look sad. The innocence in his words pierced me deeper than any argument. I glanced at Mira, who looked torn between protest and resignation. Finally, she said softly, It's his. Rakhov's. I was going to give it to the lawyer, but maybe you should see it first. My fingers shook as I held the diary. The weight of it felt unbearable, like holding a piece of my father's soul. Inside, the answers I'd been demanding for weeks might finally be written. Why he lied, why he betrayed us, why he left behind a child we never knew. But part of me was terrified, because once I opened it, there would be no going back. Arjun smiled faintly, as if he had just handed me a treasure, then returned to his toy car. And I stood there, diary in hand, knowing that the next page I turned might change everything. If you were handed your father's secret diary, would you open it immediately? Or wait until you were ready to face the truth? That night, long after the house had gone quiet, I sat alone in my room with the diary on my lap. The lamp on my desk cast a warm circle of light, but my hands felt cold, my heart hammering. It smelled faintly of leather and old ink, the scent of something lived in, personal, private. My father's handwriting sprawled across the first page, strong yet rushed, as if the words had been pulled straight from his chest. I took a breath and began to read. If you are reading this, it means I am no longer here, and it means I failed to reconcile the two halves of my life. For that I am sorry. The words blurred before my eyes. I swallowed hard and forced myself onward. I loved your mother. Never doubt that. But love is not always enough. My marriage became a cage of silence, a partnership of duty more than affection. And in that silence, I met Mira. She reminded me of who I once was before business consumed me. A man who laughed, who felt alive. Anger seared through me. How dare he justify betrayal with loneliness? But I couldn't stop reading. Arjun was born of that mistake, and yet he is no mistake. He is my son. I could not abandon him, though I lacked the courage to bring him into the light. My shame, my fear of destroying what I had with you all, kept me silent. I slammed the diary shut, breath ragged. My stomach churned with rage. Shame? Fear? He had chosen cowardice. He had chosen lies. But after a moment, trembling, I opened it again. Because beneath the fury, I needed the truth. The pages told a story of a man torn in two, a father who adored his children, yet a man who sought comfort elsewhere. He wrote of sneaking money to Mira, of birthday gifts he never delivered to Arjun, of nights he sat awake, wondering if one day, both of his families would collide. And then, if I cannot confess in life, let my death speak for me. Do not hate Arjun. He is innocent. Hate me if you must, but do not punish him for my weakness. One day, Naina, I pray you will understand my name. He had written to me. Tears spilled before I could stop them. My chest ached with betrayal, but also with something else, something I didn't want to admit. He had thought of me, of us, of the storm his choices would unleash. I closed the diary gently this time, pressing it against my heart. Answers had come, yes, but they didn't soothe. They only deepened the wound, because now I knew the truth, and the truth was far messier, far crueler than the lie had ever been. If you found out your father betrayed your family but begged you not to hate his innocent child, would you honor his wish or refuse to forgive? It was only a matter of time before whispers became headlines. Business tycoon's secret heir revealed, splashed across newspapers. Paparazzi swarmed outside our gates. Reporters shouted cruel questions at my mother whenever she dared step outside. There was no hiding anymore. My brother pushed forward with his plan, dragging Mira to court, challenging the will, calling her a fraud. My mother didn't object, though I saw the doubt flicker in her eyes. She was too tired, too broken to fight, but she let my brother take the lead. And so we found ourselves in a crowded courtroom, under harsh fluorescent lights with strangers watching, as if our family tragedy were a spectacle. Mira sat calmly beside her lawyer, her hand resting gently on Arjun's shoulder. He looked frightened, clutching his toy car like a shield. My stomach twisted. This was no place for a child. Our lawyer painted Mira as a manipulator, a liar who had seduced a wealthy man for money. He raised his voice, waving documents, accusing her of forging the addendum to the will. My brother's jaw tightened with every word, his anger radiating like heat. But then, Mira's lawyer rose, and with quiet precision, he dismantled our case. He produced the original letters my father had written, letters I recognized instantly, in the same handwriting I had read in the diary. He presented receipts of money transfers, photographs of birthdays spent in secret, a trail of proof that was undeniable. And finally, he placed the diary on the judge's desk. My heart stopped. The diary? I hadn't given it to anyone. I didn't even know how Mira had it back. Had Arjun told her? Or had she taken it? The judge leafed through the pages, his brow furrowing, his eyes softening. When he looked up, I already knew what he would say. Mr. Rahav Malhotra acknowledged Arjun as his son. The will is valid. The child is entitled to his share. The gavel struck. Final. Irrevocable. My brother exploded. He shouted at the judge, at Mira, at the entire system. Security had to pull him back. My mother wept silently, her face pale as ash. And me? I sat frozen, unable to breathe, because while my family fell apart around me, my father's words echoed in my mind. Do not hate Arjun. He is innocent? I looked at the boy across the room, clutching his mother's hand, watching everything with wide, frightened eyes. And for the first time, I wondered, was he really the enemy? Or was he the only one who had never asked for any of this? If the court proved the mistress's child was truly your father's heir, would you accept the verdict or keep fighting until the very end? After the court's decision, our home was no longer just broken. It was poisoned. My brother refused to accept the verdict. He prowled the house like a storm ready to break, his fury so sharp it made the walls tremble. He spoke of injustice, of humiliation, of our father's betrayal being rewarded. One night, I found him in the study, a half-empty bottle on the desk, papers scattered around him. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands shaking as he scribbled something furiously. "What are you doing?" I asked cautiously. He didn't look up, making sure that woman never wins. There was a wildness in his voice that chilled me. The court already decided. It's over. He slammed his pen down, glaring at me with a rage I barely recognized. Over? You think I'll let my father's empire, our empire, be shared with her bastard child? Never. I stepped back, fear prickling down my spine. What are you planning? He leaned closer, lowering his voice to a hiss. If the law won't protect us, I'll handle it myself. My breath caught. You don't mean... His silence was answer enough. Panic surged through me. He's just a child, I pleaded. Arjun didn't choose this. Don't let your anger make you a monster. For a flicker of a second, his eyes softened, almost pained. But then the fury returned, darker, sharper. Stay out of this, Nina. If you won't fight for our family, then I will. He shoved past me, storming into the night. I stood frozen, heart pounding. My brother wasn't bluffing. His pride, his pain, his rage, they had twisted into something dangerous. I ran to my mother's room, desperate to tell her, but when I burst in, she was already sitting upright, pale and trembling. I heard, she whispered. Her eyes were hollow, haunted. Your brother? He's gone too far. Tears blurred my vision. What do we do? If he hurts them? She gripped my hand, her voice breaking. Stop him, Nana. Please. You're the only one he might still listen to. But deep down, I wasn't sure he would. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance. A storm was coming, inside our home and out. And for the first time, I feared this wouldn't just end with broken hearts. It could end with blood. If your own sibling became obsessed with revenge and was ready to cross a dangerous line, would you confront them or stay silent to protect your family? I found my brother outside Mira's apartment building, his car idling in the shadows. His hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white. His eyes burned with a feverish light that terrified me. You can't do this, I said, throwing open his car door. He didn't even flinch. Move, Nana. This ends tonight. I stepped in front of him, blocking his path. My voice shook, but I forced it out. If you hurt them, you'll destroy everything Father built. And you'll destroy yourself, he sneered. Father already destroyed us. I'm just cleaning the mess. By becoming worse than him? My words cracked like glass. Do you want Arjun to grow up fearing us? Do you want to be remembered as the man who punished a child for a sin he never committed? For a moment, silence. His chest heaved, his fist trembling. Then he shouted, raw and broken. He wasn't supposed to exist. Father chose us. And now, we're nothing. The pain behind his rage pierced me. He wasn't just angry. He was shattered, betrayed, clinging to the ruins of pride. I stepped closer, tears streaming. We're not nothing. We're still here. And Arjun, he's part of this family whether we like it or not. We can keep fighting, keep bleeding, or we can try to heal. He stared at me, torn between fury and despair. Slowly, his shoulders slumped, the fight draining from him. His eyes glistened. I don't know how to forgive, Nina. I reached for his hand. Then don't. Not yet. Just don't destroy yourself trying to erase him. For the first time, he let me hold his hand. And in that fragile silence, I knew he had stepped back from the edge. The next morning, Mira and Arjun left town quietly. No gloating, no demands, just a woman clutching her son's hand, disappearing into the crowd. I watched from afar, the diary heavy in my bag. My father's words echoed inside me. Do not hate Arjun. Hate. He is innocent. I still didn't know if forgiveness was possible, but maybe acceptance was the first step. The storm had broken us, yes, but perhaps in the ruins we could build something new. And for the first time since my father's death, I felt the faintest flicker of hope. Have you ever faced betrayal from someone you trusted? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear from you.